We have some updates, and also we wanted to take an opportunity to talk about, it's an item that's in the middle of the agenda, local task force actions and updates. So we wanted to start a discussion with everyone about first, what's happening in the more local context in the towns and villages around the county, and where, just start brainstorming other initiatives that we could help to support as the county task force to help align or coordinate or in other ways support those local initiatives. Could be things like just information sharing. We have done countywide meetings in the past where we did one by Zoom and one in person, I remember, where we got updates from everyone and we were just sharing information. So we want to spend some time on that, a brainstorm. I just want to give you a heads up that we'll want your input on that and start that conversation. And some of it is really like, what is our role? Determining what our role is as a advisory group of the government, trying to provide information as a facilitator. And there's no statutory. It's not like the Environmental Management Council. There's no definition that really limits us, but also empowers us. So really, we can choose to play the role that we see fit, that's suitable for supporting the initiatives of the county and the communities that we're in. But it's not super well defined, so we can define that further than we have in the past. So just some broader things to think about. But anyway, welcome to our meeting. Thank you for joining. And we have a pretty full agenda, but again, a lot of these are just updates, so I think it'll be pretty quick. And if there's anything to add, please let us know. We wanted to recognize that Tom Paino and Betsy Albert are now officially part of the task force. They've been appointed, so thank you. And we also wanted to see if there were any additions to the minutes before we adopt them and move into the agenda. All right. So I'll take a motion in a second to adopt the minutes from last meeting, and then we can move on. Anyone? It's pro forma, I know, but
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Deborah, and John seconds. Anyone opposed? Speak up, make noise, raise your hand, do something. Okay, all in favor. Thank you. So I don't know if Christina is on. Let me just see here. Christina, you are on. Great. And it looks like a good group of people are trickling in. So that's good too. So the first item is the Capital Region Clean Energy Hub. Christina, do you want to give us an update on what that event is that's coming up?
Yeah, so Saturday, April 6th, this 2 days from now, we're going to be doing, we're going to be helping to do a NYSERDA event at the Hudson Area Library. The president of NYSERDA, Doreen Harris, will be speaking, as will Assemblywoman Dee Dee Barrett. And it is a energy forum and affordability focused. So there'll be a lot of other state agencies, the Office of the Aging, Columbia Opportunities, who does weatherization, things like that. So it's an opportunity for community members to come out and learn about the resources that they have available to them. And that's from 2:30 to 4:30 at the Hudson Area Library. And we are hoping that this wonderful task force will represent. And I believe Don's going to have a table talking about all the good work you've been doing in the county.
Would benefit from learning more about what tools and programs and incentives are available. So sounds like a great event, and I hope it's a good turnout. So thanks for organizing it.
Yeah, thank you all.
Don, tell us about Household Hazardous Waste Day. I think I just did.
Yeah, well, just a quick update. Wendy sent me some info since the last meeting that next Household Hazardous Waste Day, sponsored by the county, is going to be on Saturday, May 4th. at the Fire Training Center on 50 Grandinetti Drive, which is in Commerce Park. So we have some information posted on the solid waste site, also on our Climate Smart Waste site, with links to a little more information. So
It's another
Very-
easy thing to put in your update to that group that you're going to send out to let them know about Sunday's event. And, it's another thing to get the word out so people know we all have hazardous waste to get rid of. So it's nice to know when that day is. Christina also just wanted to add that, you want to just add that, Christina?
Yeah, if anyone has questions, I just put my email in the chat. If you'd like a copy of the flyer for it's Saturday's event, Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have a social media post, anything like that you want to make, just email me and I'll send that over to you. And yeah, any questions, you can email me there too. Thank you.
All right. And now on to the fun stuff. Not to say that's not fun, but the Climate Carnival is definitely fun. And Jolene and Don and some others have been hard at work. Jolene, do you want to give us an update?
Sure. So we have been working with our volunteers and have been doing outreach to the farms to see if we could get anyone to participate in a farmer's market. We also have the links up to both the county website and CEDC for donations and for vendors that want to participate. We do have some vendors that are starting to roll in now. So those links are up. We also need donations. That's key for this. So anyone please reach out to. We have booked the Birds of Prey again this year, and there's a $1,000 cost to that. So that's part of our fundraising efforts. We're going to start rolling out the advertising portion of this after our April meeting, which we'll be setting up tomorrow. Dates will be going out so to our committee to start scheduling different events and different PR. And that's pretty much it. If anybody is interested in volunteering or has any ideas, please reach out to myself or Don.
Great. That was my question. If you need more help.
We always need help.
Okay. Are
Okay.
there particular areas that you need help in, or is it just general?
I think it's general, plus I think mostly, fundraising and public relations. Yeah.
Yep.
Getting
Uh,
vendors signed up. Yes.
Yeah.
Those two things.
Yep.
And remind us again about the donations. The CEDC is the fiscal sponsor, and they are accepting donations, and they are tax deductible donations, charitable donations. Great. So spread the word. Anyone that has any experience in development, likes asking people for money, likes asking, we can get sponsorship from, this is a great opportunity for like local businesses to give donations. Usually they have some corporate responsibility funds available for things like this. So if you like doing that, or you're super motivated, that would be great. And anything else to say about, are there any kind of sponsorships that you figured out in terms of like, if people give a certain amount, will they get, applauded publicly, recognized?
They will be recognized. We're going to start as part of our PR. We'll be listing them on our various sites, our Facebook page up and going. And at the day of the event, we'll make sure that they're acknowledged.
Cool.
Okay.
Great. Well, it's very exciting. I don't know if everyone here was at the last carnival, but the first carnival, the only carnival other than this one. But it was fun, and there were a lot of people. It was very empowering. It felt good to be out there and in the community with a lot of people gaining awareness and just having fun. And so we're really excited about it. So get involved if you've got some time, and let Jolene and Don know. We will obviously all be involved as we get closer and just getting the word out. So that'll be a big part of the promotion, I think, through our various networks. Cool. Thanks, Jolene.
Thank you.
And Don and everyone else working on that. I think we should kick this discussion point bullet to the end. I don't think the other updates are going to take long, and I think that's more of a discussion we can end with. If anyone has anything else that's not on the agenda, just pop it in the chat. But first, there's a few more updates. So Don, give us an update on the what's happening with the clean energy funds.
Yes, well, so far the $15,000 grant that we got that was for the community solar
Yeah.
campaign, I believe. That's then complete. We've got the okay for purchasing all the electric landscaping equipment. We were able to squeeze in one extra battery operated lawnmower and 2 battery operated leaf blowers, because some of the cost came in a little bit under what we expected. So we've got the okay to purchase all that equipment. The electric vehicles and charging stations, I'm just waiting for a response from NYSERDA to give us the contract, which we can then pass to our county attorney, and that goes through our process and hand that back to them. So that's the stage that's at. But we have, we are committed to buying 4 EVs and 16 charging ports. Also, those EVs came in a little bit under budget, so we still have a $45,000 grant remaining. Talking to the folks here at the county, we're going to try to add on a 5th electric vehicle for the health department. So we're going to add that one on to that set of grants. The third one is, I'm going from memory here. The grant we qualified for because of the solar panels we installed on the highway garage. We plan on using that for installing some heat pumps, energy efficient heat pumps at the courthouse. I've said in our documentation that we qualify for that grant, but I'm just waiting to hear back from NYSERDA that they accept our qualifications, and then we can apply for that grant.
Great.
Things seem to be, it's a little bit slower. I think they're a little bit slower responding to my emails, whereas, it used to be a one week turnaround. Now it seems to take a couple of weeks between emails to hear from them. But I think that's because a lot more folks are applying for these grants now.
Yeah. When do you expect these charging stations and EVs to be operational and purchased?
They won't be until probably July, August, I would say. August, probably.
Great.
Yeah, it's going
That's
to take
good news.
or excuse me, the National Grid to approve the connections. I think that's going to be the one bottleneck
Right.
that makes it take a little time. Yeah.
And then in other related news, the town of Hillsdale is actively working to explore a DC fast charger for that area, and has been in touch with Don, and also I believe with Livingston Energy, which is the company that the county is using for these chargers, and has a good reputation. We've met with them a bunch of times. So I don't know if anyone has heard anything more than that about Hillsdale, but that's what we've heard. Don, did you hear any more lately?
Yeah, just that they have met with the folks, the NYSERDA representative. They have a private company that's going out. NYSERDA's hired a private consultant to go out and meet with some of these towns, and they were very encouraged with what happened at that meeting, and they are moving forward through the town board, trying to get the town board to approve moving forward with locating a DC fast charger, I believe on town property, somewhere in the town of Hillsdale. Yep.
And that would be really great because, obviously it's location in the county, 22, 23, and being on the east side of the county, there's one fast charger. It's a Tesla charger on the river in Hudson. Hopefully that opens up more broadly, but that's an exciting development. Tara.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Ghent is using their money from the CEC to add a fast charger as well. They were originally going to do a level 2, but now they decided to up it to a level 3. And I think that's at the town hall, but I'd have to
Mhm.
get more detail on that. So
Very good.
Okay, that's news. I'm excited
Yeah.
to hear more about that. I also heard that there's a car wash in Ghent, which has been purchased. And if anyone knows downtown Ghent, which is a bustling metropolis, next to the gas station between that and the Whitestone Diner is an old. It's a car wash that was purchased. It's no longer being used as a car wash, and I think it's in front of the planning board for them to put in some storefronts there in the bays. So that's kind of cool. There'll be some retail there. And they also are interested in maybe hosting a fast charger in that location. So maybe that's where it ends up, which might make a little more sense than the town hall. But that's exciting. For anyone that doesn't know, Don went through. A few of us. Don did the work on a mapping exercise of where the potential sweet spots for fast chargers in the county. And so if anyone's working in their community, in their towns, like what we're hearing about in some of these town efforts, and would like that information, it's available and it could be useful. So it shows traffic patterns. It shows how much traffic moves through every corridor in terms of average vehicles per day. It shows the power, the grid, and whether it's would be ready to support a fast charger. And it also shows it was an analysis that looked at, and this was more of Don's kind of expertise of looking at different areas that have concentrations of amenities that might be suitable for people who might park for a half hour to charge, not in the middle of nowhere. So whether there were stores or supermarkets or whatever around, or downtown areas. So it's a really useful map, and it might help instruct these local decisions that are being made on where to put things, or help avoid an area that might be a problem. And it's exciting to see these programs or these projects kind of continuing to build momentum so we can get some more of these fast chargers. We have a whole host of level 2 chargers, I think, in a lot of the towns, and they're used to different extents. But I think they're generally underutilized because it's anyone that has an electric car knows it's about 30 miles per hour of charge, which is good if you're in a pinch. But typically, unless you're leaving your car there all day, it's not going to do what a fast charger would do in the same amount of time, which is a full charge or 80% of a charge. So these fast chargers are really important for people that are moving through our county, for commuters, and for also for tourism. And so having more of them pop up is exciting and important. So that's the EV update. Anything else? Any other updates?
On the CEC program, there was one other thing, Dave, that Supervisor Adams, who is not here today because she's out of power in Canaan, but she wanted to make sure that we were aware of a campaign to submit some comments on the CEC program sunsetting at the end of December. Tara, do you have any? You might be a better person to answer some of these questions about what that is.
sure, yeah, and I had sent it around to a few different folks, mainly the task force chairs. But basically, there is some funding shift, basically, with the proposal of the clean energy funds that are going to happen. Basically, this is from 2026 to 2030. So they do like these chunks, basically, where they allocate money from the clean energy fund, which is where the CEC funding comes from. So this is all funded by like that SBC charge on your electricity bill. So everyone pays into that, and then NYSERDA and the PSC decide every 5 years how they're going to allocate that. With this next proposed budget, there's a decrease in funding for municipalities. So we're seeing that as that they're moving away from the CEC program. They're moving away from municipal support. The money will still stay in energy, efficiency projects, thinking more residential and kind of commercial projects. But we see that as a detriment, of course, to municipalities who have kind of come to rely on some of this match-free funding. So the PSC is taking comments on this until April 15th. I'm aware of several communities that have put in some comments already. The Association of Towns in New York State and the Association of Counties is also putting in some comments as well. But, just encouraging any municipality or anybody really to just put in comments and basically kind of, describe how important this funding could be to municipalities or has been to you in the past, let's say, 8 years or so since this program has existed.
And I'll send out the link to the website where you can submit comments to everyone here.
Thomas.
Yes. Tara, is there a template of some sort that we can use? We're volunteers, so coming
Yes.
up from scratch. So is there a template?
There is, yeah. And Don, do you have that template that you're
I
going to
do.
send out?
I'll send that
Okay.
around to everyone after the meeting. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
instructions on how to comment to the PSC if you've never done so before.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, so the community action plan, the climate action plan update, the resolution that we passed, the recommendation for the county to seek a grant to support CAP was heard at the government committee meeting in March and not voted on. There was support and questions as well about the scope of it and questions around whether to focus on a government operations plan first and then follow up with a community plan. There was some arguments or points made in response to that question, which basically were pushing back, saying that, no, it doesn't make sense to really sequence these things. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot that we can do at the same time. And then there were some questions raised about whether we should be augmenting the greenhouse gas inventory with additional focus on land use in more detail than perhaps the inventory, the regional inventory will provide. That was something that we had put into our request. And there were some concerns about, we're not sure exactly what the nature of the concerns were about focusing on land use, but that's something that's quite important in our county, given the natural resources, the abundance of farms and forests. So we're hoping that that doesn't become a sticking point. And at any rate, this is coming back to the government committee in, Don, do you know when that meeting is? It's in a couple of weeks, I think.
Yes, let me just.
And they're expected to vote to approve. They did at the last meeting in March give the green light kind of informally for Don to continue developing the proposal, which will be due at some point this summer. The RFP hasn't been issued yet, so we don't know exactly when. We've heard it might be a little bit later than it has in years past, which should be fine and give us a little more time. But Don is working already on this grant proposal, getting the work plan, the budget together, and Don can give us an update on that. But we're hoping that this gets approved. We think it's a great opportunity for the county to leverage some county resources with grant funds, and it would be a terrible missed opportunity if for some reason it doesn't get approved. So we do anticipate it will, and we're providing some additional information to the committee as well to make sure people are clear on what we're asking for, what we're expecting to do. And I think, one of the key concerns revolves around whether this is somehow dictating what people do or how it changes behavior. And to be frank, the county doesn't have that authority, really. I mean, in most areas, it doesn't have that authority. It has the ability to provide a lot of education, information, a framework, goals. It has the opportunity to let people know what programs are available to them. A lot of the things that we do, but it's more detailed. And on the government operations, and more planned and organized. On the government operations front, the county, as it's been doing, has the opportunity to directly control its emissions, and it's making great progress. Progress that wouldn't be made if it hadn't been for our task force pushing, and for Don's good work, and Wendy Madsen before that within the government to help coordinate what is ultimately a government function. So we're really just trying to provide a nudge, or the framework of information, or bring to light the available funds that are out there and the programs to support this. But these are government functions that I think increasingly are being brought into standard government operations, planning departments, et cetera. And that's really what this is about, is being more, just like we do a hazardous, other type of planning exercises in terms of comprehensive planning and hazardous conditions planning and things like that. This is part of that process. So we're optimistic that it will get approved. But Don, do you have any other updates on that, or anything to add, any nuances?
Yeah, no, just that I am working on a document. I mean, the feedback we got from the last county government meeting was they just needed more information, more time to absorb what it was that we were asking for. So I put together a rather long document. I know if I'd send it to Dave, but that kind of just explains what a cap is, what we're looking for to support with the grant, what the grant can be used for, what how the match has to work. So we would right now we are looking at a estimated $90,000 cost for consultant work. We're requesting would request a $60,000 grant from the state, a $30,000 match, cash match from the county that would add up to that 90,000. But the match has to be 100% of the grant. So we actually have to match $60,000. So that the remaining $30,000 would come from in-kind services, from county staff or volunteers in some way participating in the project. And I have started putting together. I have a pretty complete work plan put together where it lists stage phases of the project, who would do what kind of deliverables we would get from each of those phases. And now I'm working on a little draft budget of where that specifically what the costs of each of those phases might be. Hopefully getting something ready to submit to the county government committee on, let me see, it is materials I believe have to be submitted by next Friday, and the meeting is on the 17th, Wednesday.
Great.
April
Thanks,
7th.
Don. Any questions or comments, thoughts? All righty. The CARP, the Climate Adaptation and Resilience Plan that Cornell has been heading up for the county is reaching its final stages. There's a draft out for comment. Hopefully everyone has seen it. Provide comments. I don't know if Audrey's on. I don't know if there's anything to say at this point other than it's going through its process. And I know that the county has commented, and hopefully others have as well.
Yeah, I don't see her on. She hasn't
Okay.
on yet, Dave.
The tree planting campaign, and then we'll get to this discussion point. So we did some exploratory work. We're a subcommittee of this group and the EMC, a group of us, and some folks that are not on either, We reached out to several different institutions. We met with people. We developed some ideas for tree planting, kind of public interest tree planting in areas of kind of in the public domain that we would hopefully do this spring. We weren't able to fully develop a project, I think, in large part because we underestimated the amount of kind of planning that would be helpful for these organizations to carry out a really a program that fit within their curriculum in the case of schools or their program otherwise. And the time was really truncated as well. We were trying to do things really quickly. So we're in discussions now with Partners for Climate Action. Matt Stinchcomb, who's on our task force, is one of those principal people involved in that. He's not around, so he couldn't make the meeting today. But the PCA has something called an Ecological Restoration Grant Program. And folks on the call may have participated, may have been part of a grant for their community. But I believe they gave about $350,000 away in many small grants to municipalities in our county and the surrounding counties a couple of years ago. And they're planning on continuing that. They're raising money for another round of that. What's really good about them is they're not bureaucratic and they put all the money toward the program. So they raise money from donors and they get it out there. They just received some support for a youth restoration initiative. So they're going to have some funding for that. That's going to be unveiled in the next couple of weeks for people to apply for fall plantings. It just makes sense for us to try to fold this tree initiative into their program, which they're very receptive to. It fits on a lot of levels. And what that means is we could have some programmatic support, meaning a person with some knowledge and expertise and time to be able to develop those relationships with, let's say, Hudson High School or with Columbia Green Community College. We started those dialogues, but having the ability to meet with different administrators, different faculty, student groups over a series of meetings to really embed these projects within those institutions as opposed to have them be kind of a one-off that maybe someone from the outside helps them implement, and then maybe they're neglected or they're not followed up on. So that's exciting, and more to follow. But that's kind of where all this effort is now channeling. It's a little disappointing to not have some tree planting projects, but there are, as we learned in our last meeting, there are a lot of them happening this spring. There's a lot of river cleanups happening, and hopefully you're involved in one in your community. But there was one in Taconic, and there were others that we were hearing about. So that's the story. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts, but I just wanted to give an update that we're having these ongoing conversations. So, we're a bunch of new members, and we're a task force that's, again, an advisory body, which has the Climate Smart program and the Clean Energy programs, both of them as our kind of guides for what type of work we do. But it's not specifically defined what role we play other than promoting those actions in the communities. And so, seeking those grant funds and getting projects completed that actually make an on-the-ground impact. We've been doing that, and we've from time to time kind of looked at what's on our plate and what we would like to do next. The Climate Action Plan, I think, is really designed to help organize those efforts beyond the task force, really for the county government and the community as a whole. And we're really facilitators. I mean, we're really a clearinghouse of information, coordinators. I mean, that's really how I see the role of what we do. But it's kind of open-ended. We can do lots of different things. We can do different specific programs over time. And it really is directed based on the need of the community and where we think we can have an impact. So Don and I wanted to open up a discussion, which is bullet point 4 on our agenda, but local task force actions and updates, which really is in part what's going on in your community, where might you see an opportunity for greater collaboration, support, what might that look like? What type of initiatives do you think that our task force could embark on in order to support those efforts? The most broad question is, what role or roles do you see us playing in the next couple of years? So I wanted to open that up for folks to have a little discussion. John.
There we go. I had wanted to make a little, give a little report on some of the things going on in Claverick. And maybe I should wait, but, and I also have some questions and a statement. First of all, watching what goes on in this task force is inspirational. And I can report that our town board meeting this month, we are asking for the acceptance of our community action plan for government operations and to accept the inventory, which we updated and has been integrated into the CAP. We also, in for our heat pump campaign, we have filed the information for tier 1 and tier 2, and Bob Dugan, who has been heading this up in Claverick, tells us that he has his sights on tier 3. So watching what everybody else is doing is tremendously helpful for those of us who feel like we're not making any progress. Anyways, so then I do want to know more about the EV campaign, but first of all, I want to say something about restoration. And I'm very interested in knowing what the discussion at the BOS meeting was about land use. And the more I read, the clearer it is. Actually, Alexander Van Humboldt back in 1802, 1802, determined in his travels in the Americas that what people do with the land affects climate and rainfall. And this was in Venezuela. And he discovered that the deforestation and some of the planting, the way they did crops affected rainfall there. And we know now that climate affects land and land use and all, and land use affects climate. And that scientific principle, even though it's somewhat controversial, is pretty important and should be working its way into our various levels of planning. I just want to encourage that discussion. The stuff that PCA is doing around restoration is so important. The stuff around Talame and a lot of your commentary, Dave, has been very important. And this principle also appears to be kind of lacking from the CARP. And I gave them some feedback, and I have an article in our newsletter just sort of saying that, if we want to be resilient and adapt to changes, what we do with land is really important. And degraded soil just makes things worse. Anyways, but I would like to know something. I'm done. Thanks. I'd like to know more about the EV campaign. I think that's just started, and I'm not really on top of it, and I want to get in. We want to get in on it.
Right. So you're talking about community campaigns that like heat pump, solar, EV, and you're interested in who's running EV campaigns specifically. Just one quick aside, you mentioned how forests and land use affects rainfall and climate. It's not really controversial. It's just it's a science, and there's more and more evidence of that in the peer-reviewed literature all the time as people focus on it. There was a study that came out about, I don't know, a few months ago, which looked at the climate changes that were expected to happen in the Southeast US and the fact that the climate in the area, the Cumberland Plateau and other areas that have been significantly reforested over the last 100 years have experienced less changes, less warming than surrounding areas, and as the models would have expected. It doesn't say that they're going to be immune from climate change, or they've seen changes, but it helps to moderate and create more resilience in the landscape. That's not just local observation or anecdotal, that's science. Yeah, that information really needs to be included in the CARP. It's an important observation, and people should comment on that if they have an opportunity. So John, thank you for all those contributions. And
Can you post that reference
I will.
or send it out or something? Great.
will.
I haven't seen it, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
I heard about the Amazon, but
Yeah, I'll
this
do
is
that.
awesome.
I'll do that after the call. So Kara's got her hand up, and I don't know if anyone here is working directly on an EV campaign in response to John's question. Don, you're muted.
Let me unmute here. I did just get a flyer that was brought in from Amy from tourism that she got in her water bill. I believe it was that Village of Kinderhook has an EV campaign, and it is they just track any village residents that purchase an electric vehicle anytime after August 4th of 2023. If they can document that and they track it, and they I forget how many of them they have to document that they have been purchased within the village, they will get a $5,000 grant from NYSERDA once they document that a given number of residents have bought EVs within the village.
Could you send a copy of that out?
Excuse me?
Send a copy of that out too?
Yes. Yeah, I can scan this and send it out to everyone too.
Thanks.
Sure. Yep.
It's very similar to the heat pump campaigns,
Yeah.
you know, that you're just promoting the technology and then tracking the results and getting credit based on how many people buy the cars. So, you know, there's already a natural baseline or background momentum, and you're tracking it, enhancing that interest, hopefully getting more people to switch technologies and then getting credit and qualifying for grants, similarly to the heat pump campaign. Kara, you're up next.
Hey, so one of the things, and to the point, John, that you were making, this is a little bit of it's somewhat of a recycling an old topic, but Copake's CAC-CSC is this Saturday. I worked on the Taconic Headwaters Conservation Plan that CLC did, and John and I were on that, and I'm sure there are other members here who may have been on that stakeholder thing. You know, we launched that in the pandemic, but then what do we do with it? You know, everybody presented it to the towns. It involved the towns of Copake, Taconic, Hillsdale, and Claverack. And one of the points in that plan was planning, and how do you do things to protect the watershed, which all relate to the things we're trying to do that are climate smart as well. So the stakeholders have been meeting and trying to see if there's ways that we can work with the local CACs in those towns, and perhaps then get involved in trying to get some change made at the local level on, you know, the planning, the zoning, and how we do the building codes and things like that. So we're actually this Saturday at Copake CAC, we've invited the other CACs to join us, so to do a talk, you know, to kind of go over another sort of more detailed, but also more hopefully consumer friendly presentation to the towns, so they understand what we're looking at in those types of in that plan. And it's all taken from the conservation plan that was done a couple of years ago. So I know this doesn't involve the entire county, it involves that particular watershed, but you know, there's also the Punchbrook watershed has another organization group that I just joined on for the last couple months. That's getting launched in Ankrum. I'm forgetting, I think it's April 15th, tax day. So they're going to be presenting that plan, and that is for another watershed. But all of these things have similar interlocking issues that I think are really important in terms of what we can do to educate the communities, but also the town planning boards on what to do. So I wanted to put that out there. I know it's not countywide, but it certainly is a big part of one part of the county, and kind of building on those other plans that get developed hopefully elsewhere. And as you guys all know, there's also a countywide plan that Columbia Land Conservancy is working on. So I wanted to throw that out there. I don't know exactly what I want to say, but I want to just throw it out there for discussion or thought, and maybe we come up with some other better talking points down the road on what we can do to support that.
Great.
Hey,
Yeah.
David, it's Steve Power. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I can't really,
You never have to
see.
apologize, Steve,
yeah.
for participating. Thank you. Go ahead. Do you want to respond to
Just
that?
wanted to comment on, we have done an EV campaign in New Lebanon, and actually got the minimum number of 5, but I haven't even submitted it yet to NYSERDA. It has been difficult to track because it's not like the community solar campaign, and that you have to try to either partner with a local dealership or it's word of mouth. So I'm happy to share with anyone, certainly offline, what we've done and how we've been able to track it. And Tara was kind enough to share some of the resources that she has for tracking it with the state websites. But I look at it as low hanging fruit, and $5,000 grant coming your way. All you have to do is get 5.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks for that nuanced explanation. So Steve's the expert, and Tara, of course, always is the core expert. But Steve has some experience there if you want to run a campaign, and maybe we ought to do that as a county, because it seems fairly straightforward. It's not a lot of effort, and we can raise a little more money. Are there tiers as well for that campaign? I know that a large municipality would get more than 5,000, but are there tiers beyond the 5 cars?
I think so, but I'll let Tara comment on that.
Yeah, there is. There's 3 tiers, just like there is with the others. I think it's, I don't have it in front of me right now, but basically, yeah, depending on the size of the community, it's 5, and then maybe 10 cars to tier 2 for small, and then maybe 20. I'd have to look it up, but yeah, you're right. And then the county would be more. So the county is, I've got it in front of me now. So small communities would need to get 5 cars for tier 1, or 5 registrations, 5, purchases, 15 for tier 2, and 50 for tier 3. And the county, the large communities would need 10 for tier 1, which actually is pretty low. 50 for tier 2 and 100 for tier 3.
And what's the grant amount for
Yeah.
2 and 3?
So for tiers, for small, it's 5,000, 7,500, and 15,000. And then for the county, it would be 15,000, 25,000, and 40,000.
Well, I mean, considering this is likely happening anyway, and we could increase those numbers through some promotions, but you have to. It seems like a kind of a no-brainer. It's just a matter of the time to get the paperwork done, coordinate with the local dealers, put some information out there. So it does take some work, but something that we should all be thinking about for sure. Deborah.
I just wanted to chime in as well that Chatham is running an EV campaign. So I have some brochures that we have, John, I can send you. We had a informational meeting at our local library that was relatively well attended. So I'd be happy to share all that information with you. And Tara was instrumental in helping us get that set up too. So
Super, thanks.
Can we share it with everybody too, not just individuals? Because I think if anybody doesn't want to get it, they can let them know, but maybe it'd be easier for all of us to have it.
sure.
Because to my knowledge, Copac has not done that. I don't know if they will do it, but I'd love to have the information to pass along.
Yeah, happily. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, some good momentum here. John, I put in the chat the reference that I was talking about, and a couple of articles about it as well. All right. Thomas.
Yes, I just want to be sure with regard to what Kara was reporting, land use efforts, that be sure to contact the BOA activities that are going on in the county. So, for example, Philmont has the Agawamic Watershed Advisory Committee, which involves Hillsdale and Claverick for the Agawamic watershed, and they're doing a lot of work on that. And I think these efforts need to be combined for an overall county land use policy.
Yeah, I mean, how do we scale up and coordinate these kind of broad community restoration efforts that are either parallel or interconnected, and share resources and scale the impact, the models of restoration, the approaches with the communities. I mean, these are all big questions, really important questions, because I mean, I think John may have said it earlier, but it's most of the climate strategies that we typically see broadly in our communities are technology transfers. We're going from gas power to electric. We're going from furnaces to heat pumps. We're shifting from one technology to another, which is great and an improvement, and it will reduce emissions. We're installing solar and wind and other renewables. Again, those things fit well within our kind of capitalist economy because they're commodities, they're products, they're services. They just take the place of the old. And in a lot of ways, they can be adapted really easily and hopefully more easily than they have been. And that accelerates. And that's a big part of it. Those are big pieces, big wedges. But what a farmer does on his or her land, or how we manage a forest or a particular riparian area or an ecological zone, is not only more nuanced and often site specific in a lot of ways, but also requires knowledge that is not as abundant as it used to be, perhaps, but certainly not widely available. Many people don't know how to identify plants or know what should be growing in their area, or how to manage, how to plant something, how to establish something, how to eradicate something. And so we end up with, and farmers, of course, often do what they have been doing, and they adopt new approaches when their neighboring farmers adopt them, and when there are programs to support them. They realize that, oh, cover cropping makes sense because it's actually protecting our soil, and it's enhancing water capacity, and there's an incentive out there to help me do it. And so then they'll adopt it, or things like that. So these are more the ecological side, and the land stewardship side is more challenging. But it's really a big piece of what we need to be doing, both from a climate and an ecological standpoint. And the question is, how can we encourage more of that in our communities? I mean, there's a lot of interest, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of expertise in our county and in our area. How can we, as an advisory body or our respective networks that we're all involved in, support these initiatives? That's a big question. It's one thing to say, let's do a heat pump campaign, and it's like a cookie cutter kind of operation, or let's get the county to buy electric vehicles and install. Fortunately, that's become much more straightforward, an operation. But these other pieces are, will require all of us to do a lot of hard work and continue to communicate. So I don't know where that leads us in terms of tangible next steps, but it's certainly something that's become abundantly clear to a lot of us as we have engaged in this kind of work for a while. And I don't know if anyone has any thoughts. Kara?
Well, I wanted to, and I think you'll like where this is going, David. One of the things that was a big problem for us, particularly in Copic, and I know it was elsewhere in the county, but the last few storms we had resulted in a lot of trees coming down. But then our CAC is worried about, well, we were going to try, we want to do a tree care presentation to the community. We had hoped we could do it earlier, but we've got a lot of things on our plate for the next few months. I think we're scheduling one for the fall. And this relates to not only proper care, but people are cutting down trees right and left because they're so worried with the storms. And it's a legitimate concern about, damage to themselves and to their property, because to Conic Shores, there were 4 houses that had trees fall on them. So, but what I'm seeing and what others are seeing is a lot of just cutting down the trees, and that's a really dangerous thing particularly along the riparian borders and, all of the other areas we have. But then for the obvious ones, trees provide such value in this environment. So I was thinking, and I know I emailed you about this, and I'm sorry we didn't get back in touch on this, but the idea of this whole tree planting campaign, I think that's a really interesting one for this organization to try to see if there's ways we could get all of our CSCs to coordinate to do something. I mean, I know we'd love to do we're going to do a program in the fall that is informative. And this is the thing, people don't know sometimes the value of trees. They just look at them as a potential danger. And that is a legitimate concern. So how do we educate them properly and also help people? And I think that's one start. There's so many other things, like you mentioned, about farm practices and riparian practices, adjacent riparian practices. But maybe this is, since you've got momentum on the tree planting program, I'm certainly going to look into having the town apply for any grants that might be available for that, on an individual basis. But maybe there's a way we could, like with promoting electric vehicles or the Heat Smart campaign, maybe we do a tree planting campaign that we really work with the communities on. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was and still is the goal of the project that a bunch of us were kind of involved in over the winter. We made good progress with the Hudson schools. We made good progress with Columbia Green. And we had good discussions with the city of Hudson and CLC. So all of those projects are further, potential projects are further along than they would have been. And what's really become apparent to me is there's a lot of, as I said before, a lot of nuance, a lot of detail, site-specific detail that goes into planning even a relatively simple tree planting campaign. What's the site, what species, where are you sourcing the materials, who's going to do the work, who's going to do the maintenance following up, who's going to train people how to do all that work, how to plant, how to care. Until these trees are really well established on their own for the first few years, it takes some follow-up, as we all know. So one of the key things that came out of the discussion with, that's the ongoing discussions with Partners for Climate Action, is having a resource person to carry out those conversations, discussions, and planning processes. So with the school, like Hudson High, there's a great science teacher, Jim McDarby, who was part of our group, who runs the Eco Club, and he's got a core of really great students, and he's really interested. And we had some good discussions. Taking it one step further, it would be, okay, what's happening in the science curriculum at the school, and how might a planting project or a restoration project fit? That takes a little time and effort to plan and think through. But then you get all this buy-in because it's part of their idea, part of their program. And that's the work that I think will make this more durable, but it takes more time. So if PCA could dedicate some resources, a person, to do some of that work and lead it, we as volunteers can provide support. We can promote it, but you need an institutional home for a program like this to really exist and thrive. We're not a home. The EMC is not a home because, we've got one part-time person who's what we're doing is promoting the government function. If the planning department had a tree planting kind of campaign person, and that would be my choice, I would vote for that. But great, then the government and our task force could do that internally. So now we're looking to figure that out externally. So I think you're totally right, Kara, but I think there are a few components, and then you need funding to say,
Sure.
there's a list of designers or landscape people who can come to a site, can assess it, and can do a plan for what's going to be. Doesn't need to be super detailed, but what's going to happen on site there. What plants are being planted? What's the land prep? What's the follow up? And that simple type of planning will then, needs to be done well and professionally, and so those people need to be paid. You can only rely on volunteers to do that kind of work, that professional work, to take you so far. And so if we had that capacity combined with the programmatic capacity to kind of develop the projects, then we would have turnkey shovel-ready projects that all of us as volunteers and community members could donate toward or volunteer our time toward. And then I think it can take off. So a lot of the pieces are there, or we're building, and I think there's definitely a role for all of our task forces and local community groups, but it needs an institutional home.
Yep. Yeah, maybe what I can do, since Copake wants to do something in Copake, I'll see where we get with it, because all the things you're mentioning make sense. We have, maybe we have something in our budget. We know we've got people that could give us advice on that, on what to plant. And then maybe if we do something that's useful, we'll share it. And then other individuals can do it. And then we build up this sort of network within, and then we could be
Yeah.
a sort of informational sharing thing. But I totally hear you. I get the nuances and the complexities of it, but I wanted to throw it out there for everyone to think about.
Well, and I don't mean to throw any cold water on anything, because I think there's already examples like yours and Taconic and others where people are doing it on their own in their community, and they're pulling together the resources to make it happen. And that's phenomenal. And they're getting grants from folks like PCA to pay for it. But if it's a scale thing and we're trying to replicate and expand, then we need more coordinated effort, and that's what we're trying to do. But by all means, all of these examples of these local community efforts that are coming to fruition are super important to publicize and to share with other people. So, Laura, sorry, you've been waiting. I think you're muted.
I just wanted to mention what we're doing in Valatia, because it's, part of this conversation. And we were fortunate that someone on the board had already started working in River Street Park, which is a riparian park right on the creek. It floods often. There's some parts of it that are, being eroded. And our board member last year started organizing cleanups. So we did 2 of them last year. I think one was in the spring and one was in the fall. We removed a lot of Asian bittersweet. He had gone through a program, so he knew what to look for. He knew what we needed to get rid of. And it was wonderful to have him as a resource kind of, directing this. This spring, we're going to go on Saturday, we're going to remove more. And then on May 4th, we're doing both native planting and removal. And in June, we'll see if we still have more native plants to plant, or if we'll just do more removal of the bittersweet. But we're just kind of doing it on our own. The school does want to be involved. I talked to some of the science teachers and also the social science teachers, the history teachers that want to involve students that are in participatory government, where they need to volunteer for something like this. So we're hoping to get some of those students to come to help out. And we'll see how it goes. We're hoping among us all that have kind of started this, that we have enough knowledge about the planting and that it's a riparian environment. I don't think we have to worry so much about watering and everything. We'll just have to take a look, see what happens in terms of how things progress.
Yeah, that's great. Very inspirational. And I hope that you're able to share with us the results of that. And all of these projects we should help to document and promote. Maybe there's a report we could do which talks about, the restoration projects in the in the county and we can get some publicity around it. Because it's really important for people to know. I mean, not only because this may be something they might want to do, but it's the antidote to the depressing news that we get all the time. This is how we drive forward. You know, it's solar and EV and all that, but it's really this type of work in our communities that's so inspirational. I wanted to mention, Laura, and for everyone, that it does look like PCA will be announcing soon these small grants for young people to participate in restoration projects. I think it's 18 to 25, maybe younger, maybe it would be high school. And I think there's small grants like $5,000, but that's a lot for a small project. And if there's already a community engagement that's bringing it forward, that could be that could take it to another level, you know, and also help to really engage your like you said, you wanted to get younger people involved.
Mhm.
So
Where was that grant available?
not available yet, but
Oh,
it's coming, I think. So it might come soon. That will more information to follow, and hopefully Matt can give us an update at our next meeting. I think they'll know by then. So it has not been announced. You're not missing out on anything, but I do think that they're trying to develop that, and I think an announcement's coming soon. So a little foreshadowing. And
Thanks.
that money would be quick turnaround too. It would have to be like spent this year. It would be 6 months. You know, there'd be an RFP and it'd be issued in the late summer or fall, and then you know it'd be spent for like a fall project. So stay tuned. Thomas, I think you were next, and then Don.
Yes, just for fear of this lapsing into silos, I just want to bring back the fact that there is this watershed, that addressing the watershed is really significant. And that for example, well, the way water flows through the county it could be a tourist attraction, but it's also, I think, what would be considered the greatest risk to the county in terms of climate change. So these various groups that are working on watersheds are really significant. And again, we all have our favorite watershed probably in Columbia County. Mine is the Agawamic, because in a very short distance where it goes through Philmont, part of it is probably one of the largest lakes within a village municipality. It's also the highest waterfall in Columbia County. The only reason Philmont is on the map is because of this vigorous water that runs through it. So there is a group that's concentrating on both the risk factors, the silting of the lake, many, many different factors, and planting. So I think they've even done their own natural resource inventory. It was very localized to the Agawamic, but I think all of this is very important to bring it all together at a countywide as a countywide issue.
And not to put you on the spot, but because you raised really important kind of framing of watersheds. But do you have any ideas for whether it's the task force or some other body in the county as to how you would see coordination or promotion of ideas? I mean, do you have any suggestions for how we might, as a task force, take this on or some aspect of it, or promote the watershed, the focus on watersheds, because you're right, we have some amazing watersheds that carry from the eastern uplands to the Hudson, and they our little creek that runs right here through, I know where it starts and I know how it gets to the Hudson, and it's fascinating. And there's thousands of those little creeks all throughout the county that feed into these watersheds and keep them healthy or not. And a lot of it is, the vast majority is on private land, obviously. So, but if you have any ideas now or in the future as to how you would see this beyond your Agawamic work, what you would envision or like to see happen, that would be helpful.
Okay, well, what I can do, I'm not on that particular committee, but let me reach out to the people who are and see what they think, how their efforts could be helped on a countywide basis, and possibly through this committee or something else. And I'll get
Yeah.
back to you.
I mean, this is generative, we're trying to create ideas, and there's no, we're not at a point where we're saying, yeah, we're going to work on that, we're going to work on this, but this is just sharing, and we're able to get some ideas developed through this that may lead to direct work for the task force or some other actions that others can take. So it's a good discussion. We don't have an opportunity to do this enough. So thanks for that contribution. Don?
Yeah. So being the map guy in the county, it would be nice to a lot of discussion about these tree planting campaigns, and it would be nice to track locations of all these. I mean, I can go back through the minutes and look at review the YouTube after this meeting, but if you can send me in exactly where all these tree planting campaigns are happening, the locations where you're planting these trees, I would love to be able to track where they are. And any other, not just for the tree planting campaign, but any other projects that are like location specific. I could try to keep, because that's the way I think. I just kind of think
Yeah, that's great.
geographically, and that all fits in with the watershed stuff that Tom was just mentioning too. If we could locate where all these tree planting campaigns are and kind of match them up with what's going on these various watersheds, we can kind of do a little analysis and track these over time. Are these tree campaigns really helping any at all?
Yeah.
Where are they helping? Where aren't they? And we can identify future spots that might fit in well with another tree. All of that. So.
Well, I think it's a great, thanks, Don. That's a great idea. I think getting the watershed projects that have all, like the Taconic Headwaters project and other projects like it, the Agawamic work, getting that, at least identified on a map as to where and then associated with whatever report or document came out about that watershed would be helpful. The PCA grants that went out, is that a lot of them were in the county, not all of them. So that's also something to track. And then these kind of local projects that we've heard about, Taconic, Valatia, and others that are happening, all of those. So please communicate them to Don, and we can reach out to PCA, of course, get that information. And CLC may have something to add as well about what it's aware of happening in the community. But it's a great idea, and it's not happening, and that could be an important role, informational kind of clearinghouse role that we can play, and then we can build on that. Excellent.
I just put the details on the Punch Brook watershed into the chat for everybody to take a look at if they want.
Thanks, Kara.
Well, I don't know if there's anything else. This has been really informative, but keep thinking about whether it's a program, what maybe we want to have a fall gathering. I think we should, with all of our community members who are active in these various groups in our towns, some of the institutions or organizations that are active around as well, and we can figure out what we'd want to focus on, in this regard, because there's a broad array of topics that fall within what we've been talking about, ecological restoration. But it's an area that I think deserves a lot more attention. There's so much interest in the community around it that I've seen, that all of us have seen. The Tell Me videos, the workshops that are happening, Taconic Talks, these other things that are happening. And they're happening kind of organically. I mean, people really want more of it. So maybe we can play a role here. Think about what that might look like for the fall. And I think we're due for a gathering of sorts. We could do it at Basilica like we did last time, or some other venue like that. Don?
Yeah, just to add, we do have the Climate Carnival coming up in September. And I remember that Jolene had mentioned this a few weeks ago, that it would be nice if we could possibly get a task force member to help coordinate what the various local task force and committees are doing, and because we usually set up, the town, village, city task forces in one area of the fairgrounds when we have this climate carnival, and perhaps somebody wants to take on that little task of trying to coordinate what each member is doing, and so they're representing the full spectrum of what all of the local task forces are doing in the county. And so
Yeah, there's a real need there for volunteer help. Thanks, Don. And maybe we can get this. It's a good kind of focal point in the calendar, the climate carnival. But maybe we can gather this information on ecological projects that are happening, and perhaps other types of projects. But for that event, have a little map there that we can
Mhm.
talk to people about, promote. Terrence.
Thanks. CLC is planning I guess it's going to be 6 workshops, or a series of 6 workshops in 2 parts each, starting in May and then in June and in October. We're finalizing our outreach materials, and then I'll share them with Don, and hopefully he can share them with everyone else. It seems to fall in line with, the series is called Caring for the Land. It will be at our kind of rotating through our conservation areas, focused on land management issues, including grasslands, forests, and wetlands. And so it could be the type of thing that CACs want to amplify in their communities. The first part will be more of an instructional kind of overview of the topic, and then the second part will be actually implementation of what we just learned a couple of weeks prior, so people will get the chance to both learn about each one of those topics and then work with CLC staff. And then our goal is that people can use those lessons to replicate either at their own properties or in their towns.
Cool. That's exciting. Thank you, Terrence.
Yeah, thank you. This is all. I thought this conversation was great, by the way.
Great. I did too. I'm glad we're having it. It's good to hear from everyone. There's a lot of energy. Christina.
Hi. Yeah, it's great to hear all this too. I just also wanted to mention we're in the very beginning stages, but we are planning to do a environmental equity fair kind of thing with Columbia Green sometime in November. And we were hoping to have there be a lot of roundtable discussions about how to integrate all the different sides of environmentalism through that. So that could potentially be a place for this mixer of all the leaders in the town, and that could be a roundtable or just a social gathering, but something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's great. A focus on equity in all of these issues, and it brings that, we can that's great. When is that being planned for, or is not no date yet? Just
No date yet, either late October or November, I believe.
Huh. Okay, great. Well, let's keep talking about that. Obviously, if there's something already happening, then that could serve the purpose of, it's good to get people together at least once a year, maybe more if we can get ourselves organized, because there are all of these activities that we're not all aware of, and it's inspiring. John.
Yeah, I just like this issue of equity. And let me go back to Alexander Van Humboldt in 1800 or so. And among the things that he noticed going on, and he referenced Cuba as an example, where the large landowners planted export crops and pushed all the small farmers off the land, which has happened all over Latin America and much of this country. And as a result, they have to import food, not only back a couple centuries ago, but now. And this is common in a lot of tropical countries. So that's not a lot different from what has happened in, and don't quote me on this, of course, not what happened with industrial agriculture, where, as they said, get big or get out. And so small farms have disappeared, and cash crops, which make corporations a lot of money. So this is a huge equity issue that people have been pushed off the land by this market force. And as a result, you've also got the degradation of land. So that's just, what's his name? Amitav Ghosh, who some of you are familiar with as a novelist and another, right? Anyways, he's talked a lot about in his book called The Nutmeg Curse, and his other one that's more directed on climate. But anyways, I just thought that understanding land and the quality of land and what it does, how it relates to quality to climate, is very related to this issue of equity. But we don't really have a handle on doing it. So I'll shut up now.
Well, thanks for that addition. It's always interesting, John. I like the references. Okay. I don't want to cut this off. We do have time, but does anyone else have any other thoughts here? I mean, I think this is good. We can kind of ruminate on these topics. Think about a potential map that could map these things. Think about consolidating one way or the other, in addition to a map, the information as to what type of restoration projects are happening. There's some future program with PCA, short-term and long-term, with a new round of restoration grants. There's an environmental equity forum that Christina's organizing for the fall. There's a lot of good, and they're all the projects that everyone's involved in their communities. So I'd say keep it coming, and let's keep talking about it. And if there are more specific ideas that could inform the work of this task force beyond what we've talked about, or carrying on some of these threads, let's bring it back up in a month or sooner. Get in touch with me and Don anytime, and we can evolve the work plan kind of organically from these discussions, in addition to the work that we're already doing. So I don't know, anyone have anything else to add, or I don't want to cut it off, but a really good discussion. Thanks everyone for participating, and have a great day. Enjoy the snow as it melts.
Hey.
Hopefully get your power back if you've lost it.
Thank you all.
Thanks all. We'll see you soon.